Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're continuing, what if Hinata became the light in Sasuke's darkest days? Their unexpected bond changed everything. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Naruto what-if stories. And comment below, Sasuke will choose the light. Now sit back, watch till the end, and discover how Hinata's unexpected bond continues to change Sasuke's destiny. Let's begin part 7. Hinata, your boyfriend's here to see you. The statement left her flustered. It was obvious who her so-called boyfriend was. She had not seen him in 2 days. 2 days had passed since she had revealed the truth to him and since he had left without even saying a word in response to her revelation. She dreaded seeing him. Would their relationship survive this? What would she do if her confession had ruined their relationship beyond repair? She tried not to dwell on such depressing thoughts. She found Kurenai by the door. Her mother figure was not even trying to hide her wariness. It was safe to say that everyone who had attended Shikamaru's party was wary of Sasuke. She had certainly not forgotten how evil he had seemed. Her eyes settled on him. Standing before her was the person who visited her in her darkest nightmares and her sweetest dreams. She wished she could stay away from him and never see him again. She also wished to never leave his side, to be constantly attached to him as the root is to the vine. She wished to have nothing to do with him. She also wished to be involved in every aspect of his life. Feelings were such a silly contradictory thing. Kurenai sent him a threatening look before giving them space. She, being the same coward who was even afraid to face her own sister, avoided his eyes and stared at his chest instead. Are you hungry? She mustered the courage to make eye contact. He was passively staring down at her with his piercing black eyes, eyes that sometimes made her forget what she wanted to say when she peered into them. Those eyes now truly saw her for what she was, a self-loathing black sheep who had seen him as a tool that she could use to convince herself that she deserved to live. He raised his eyebrows at her silence. Yes, no, his voice pulled her out of her thoughts. He was asking if she was hungry. She desperately wanted to hear his thoughts on her confession, and here he was asking her if she was hungry. He momentarily did not seem like he was drowning in the murky pits of darkness. He momentarily did not seem like a subject of many sorrows. He seemed like a silly man, a clown who fooled around to amuse his audience. Yes, put your shoes on, we're going out. He waited for her in the hallway. She mindlessly put on her shoes. She poked her head into Kurenai's room to inform her that she was heading out. Kurenai mumbled something about how she and Sasuke were too obsessed with one another. She followed after the cause of her anxiety. She stopped walking as they descended the stairs. He faced her as she crossed her arms across her chest. You haven't said a single word about what I told you that day. What do you want me to say? Something. She wanted him to tell her how betrayed he felt. She wanted him to tell her how angry he was. She wanted him to tell her that she was a terrible person. She wanted to be told that she was self-centered, manipulative and a fraud. She wanted him to hold her and try to convince her that her existence was valid. She wanted him to reassure her even though she would not believe him. She wanted him to look into her eyes, his eyes burning with a conviction that could move mountains, and tell her that she was special. She had tried to fix him so that she could feel special, after all. She wanted to be told that she was special even though it was not true. You only wanted to use me. You merely saw me as a means to make yourself feel better about yourself. It was all about you. It makes sense why you were so insistent about saving me when you barely knew me. She felt so. The clothes on her back were useless in preventing her from being exposed. Her hideousness was exposed for the universe to feast its eyes on. She averted her gaze. I suspected that you had an ulterior motive at first, but then you did a good job in making me lower my guard. You're good at disarming people, I'll give you that. She felt so dirty. She felt like a slithering snake. I can't say I'm surprised though. People have been using me all my life. Orochimaru, Itachi, Obito. It's nothing new. His face and casual tone gave the impression that he was talking about something as mundane as the weather. The heavy expression in his eyes told the truth. It's funny how the truth always comes out, isn't it? There was no hostility in his tone, and yet every single word he said ripped her apart. She wanted to flee. She was sick of hearing the truth. You pretended that you wanted to go out to eat so that you could lure me away from Kurenai and tell me this. Silence descended upon them. It was agonizing to feel so sure about the bond they shared, but to also feel so uncertain about the fate of their relationship. Would her truth break them apart? Was it time to part ways? The idea horrified her. She almost felt physically sick in her stomach. She realized once again that her heart was too invested in him. She felt a lump forming in her throat. Perhaps the doubts she had been feeling about their relationship ever since the party had merely been a premonition. She was beginning to panic. She was not ready to let go. I am hungry. I'm also not in the mood for my own cooking. I hadn't seen you in a while, so I figured that I could kill two birds with one stone by getting you to accompany me. Life gets a bit dull without you. She had been rendered speechless. She probably looked flabbergasted. His next question told her that he had read her thoughts. You thought I was through with you? He seemed offended. Isn't that why you ran off, Sasuke? You're in a very bad space, Hinata. I knew you had your own share of problems, but I did not suspect that it was this severe. You're not much better off than I am. So you ran because... She still did not understand. You caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say to you. So I ran away. He moved closer, invading her personal space. His fingers touched her chin. The warmness of his fingers was comforting. He tipped up her chin to compensate for their height difference. His eyes were like ink. She felt the familiar urge to squirm under the scrutiny of his dark eyes. The urge reminded her of the way she used to react when Naruto looked at her. Are we on the same page? He asked. She managed to interpret the question. Do you care about me as much as I care about you? Asterisk. Yes. So why should I let you go that easily? Her heart began pounding. She swallowed hard. Me not forgiving you for this would be hypocritical, don't you think? I can't keep on taking and taking. I also have to give. His eyes turned melancholic. I never would have imagined that you hate yourself. Do you still think I'm beautiful after seeing the real me? This self-loathing person? Yes. She smiled bitterly. Liar. I said you're beautiful. I never said you're perfect. He pressed his finger against her chest. I still think you're internally beautiful despite the ugliness of the hatred you feel towards yourself. Flawless beauty doesn't exist anyway. He seemed so convinced of his words. She was sure that she would almost believe him if he told her that he had purchased the sky for her. She was not swayed by his words, but she wanted to be. His gaze dropped to her lips and lingered there. The attention made her cheeks warm. Princess. Why had she grown so fond of the nickname he had given her? Yes. He looked into her eyes. I'm starving. Let's go. He was descending the stairs in the next moment. Her lips cracked into a smile. She followed her impatient companion. You look like a mess. Her skin was paler than usual. There were bags below her tired eyes. She was slouching exhaustedly. She looked utterly defeated. She looked horrible. Worry filled his heart. The sun had set about 2 hours ago. What's wrong? Her lower lip quivered. He stepped aside to let her in. She made her way to the lounge and sat down on the sofa. She stared at her hands gloomily. Do you want something to drink? She shook her head. He joined her on the sofa. She removed her shoes, scooted closer to him, and curled up against him. She laid her head on his chest and rested one of her hands above his heart. He looped his arm around her shoulders and pulled her closer. The fruity fragrance of her hair dominated his senses. She clutched his shirt tightly and started sniffing. Teardrops started falling on his chest. She felt unbelievably fragile as she cried. He felt as if the slightest mishandling would shatter her. Her dismal state made him anxious. She stopped crying after some time. He zoned out to the subtle ticking of the clock in her breathing. Her breathing pattern eventually changed. Her exhaustion had overwhelmed her. She had fallen asleep. He observed the steady rise and fall of her chest and her slightly parted lips. A ball of discomfort developed in his stomach. He had barely slept the previous night. The sound of her steady breathing and the uniform ticking of the clock was hypnotic. The sound lulled him into a dreamless sleep. A light sensation on his chest woke him up. She was awake and absent-mindedly tracing circles on his chest with her index finger. The disorientation and grogginess he felt told him that he had slept for more than an hour. He looked down and found lavender eyes staring at him. Long day. She did not respond. She did not seem to be willing to talk about why she was in that state. He started stroking her hair. It was a double shift, she replied minutes later. Her chest vibrated against his when she spoke. He repositioned himself into a more comfortable position. She snuggled closer to him. An extended shift did not explain why she was in such a state. A woman died while giving birth to her daughter. The daughter survived. The woman had an older daughter who's 4 years old. The elder daughter resembles her deceased mother so much. She has pale skin and dark hair, she whispered. He now understood why she was so upset. The incident had opened an old wound. I couldn't stop thinking about how our mother died in a similar manner and left us motherless. It's been a long time since thinking about her brought me so much pain. Her voice was gentle but sad. Like the rain at a funeral. I was a terrible mess. My work was being affected. My superior Mito-san reprimanded me. No, she insulted me in front of my colleagues. She humiliated me and made me feel worthless in front of everyone. He already despised her superior. I don't know what she has against me. She's always antagonizing me and treating me as if I don't deserve to be working there. It hurts. He thought about paying Hinata's superior a visit but decided against it. She probably wouldn't like it if he threatened to cripple her superior. I usually just brush off her treatment, but I was not in the right state of mind today. I just couldn't take it. I rushed to the bathroom and cried. She ironically started crying again. He pulled her closer. Kurenai is not home, so I came here. I just didn't want to be alone, she said. I'm a horrible sister, aren't I? I'm supposed to be looking out for Hanabi. I guess it's just another failure to add to my list. It's not too late to fix things between you and your sister. She did not respond. Hinata and her sister's relationship bothered him. He would give an arm and a leg to just have a sibling again. Hinata's sibling was alive, but they were estranged. I'm tired of thinking about depressing issues. Tell me a story. She started tracing circles on his chest with her finger once again. He buried his nose in her hair and immersed himself in its scent. Which one? Any. Wonderful. The great Sasuke Uchiha has been relegated to a storyteller. What's next? A babysitter. Kurenai's daughter appeared in his mind. He stopped her before she could reply. Don't answer that. She smiled for the first time that night. It was a weak smile. There once was a Uchiha boy who met a Hyuga girl under a Yoshino tree. She shifted. He felt the heat of her forehead against his neck. And what did the Uchiha boy think of this Hyuga girl? She whispered. He thought she was a pampered princess who knew nothing about life. A pretty face who had nothing of value to offer. He hated her, be honest. I don't like this Uchiha boy. He's such a meanie. She proved him wrong though. He eventually discovered how special she was. He also discovered that she was just like him. She was scarred and hurting inside. Silence enveloped them for a while. And what did the Hyuga girl think of the Uchiha boy? She asked. She thought he smelled bad and told him that he needed a bath. Quote. She giggled. Her laughter destroyed some of the gloom in the air. A comfortable silence settled between them. He held onto the girl who had captured his heart. She smelled like lavender and grape. I also have a story. Go on, he replied with his eyes closed. There once was a Hyuga girl who met a Uchiha boy under a Yoshino tree. You don't feel even a bit of shame for such blatant plagiarism? None at all, he sighed. What did this Hyuga girl think of the Uchiha boy? That he looked scary and sad. She struggled to get over how sad he looked. She also thought that he was cold. Did her opinion of him change? Yes, she discovered that he wasn't as scary as she had first thought he was. He was actually just a normal person who had been the victim of an unkind life. She also learned that he was not really cold-hearted. She realized that he understood her more than anyone else. They got along quite well provided that they were not fighting. A powerful bond formed between them. She ended up liking him. She ended up liking him very much. She covered her mouth as she yawned. She also discovered that he didn't smell too bad once he bathed. He smirked. How does it conclude? She smiled. I don't know. It's still being written. The only thing I'm certain about is that they currently care about one another a lot. Maybe at some point they'll start being honest with one another and just say whatever it is that needs to be said. Her insinuation made him tense. No matter how things play out, I just hope that they both find happiness in the end. They can't spend their whole lives walking in darkness. The sun has to shine at some point. Are you hungry? She nodded. Extracting himself from her was more than unpleasant. He warmed the leftovers from his last meal, served the food and brought it to her. The enthusiasm with which she ate showed him how hungry she was. She washed her plate after eating. She found him reading. She took a book from the bookshelf and rejoined him on the couch. Cuddling was apparently still on the agenda. He did not mind. He did not intend on depriving himself of her entirely, even though he desired to keep their relationship platonic. It would be too painful. He could at least allow himself to hold her. Nearly 2 hours passed with them reading and having bits of conversation in between. You should go home and get some rest. She seemed unsure about how to respond. I don't want to be alone tonight, she whispered. Can I? He stood up and stretched before returning the books to the bookshelf. You can have my futon. He stood in the hallway and waited for her to follow. She followed. She stood uncertainly by the door as he searched through the dressing cabinet. You need something to sleep in, right? No, she quickly answered. He looked at her with a raised eyebrow. She looked embarrassed. I mean yes. He retrieved a pair of shorts he would sleep in and a gray long-sleeved t-shirt for her. He threw the shirt to her. She caught it mid-air. Thanks. She disappeared into the bathroom. He changed into what he would be sleeping in. He grabbed the extra blanket and a pillow and tossed them into the lounge. He was giving up his futon and his bedroom for a woman. He would be sleeping on the couch for her sake. How the mighty had fallen. He returned to the room and waited for her. He shifted his gaze to her as she emerged from the bathroom. He immediately regretted coming back to the bedroom. In retrospect, waiting for her to come out to make sure that she was settled for the night had been utter foolishness. It had been an innocent oversight but utter foolishness nonetheless. His foolishness had trapped him in his current predicament. He gulped as he drank in the sight before him. The shirt only covered her butt and not much else below that. Only her upper thighs were hidden from view. The rest of her shapely legs were in full display. Where the hell were her spandex shorts? Kunoichi wore those all the time. What had possessed her to neglect to wear them? The shirt had been designed for considerably broader shoulders. It was sagging to one side, alluringly revealing a considerable area around her neck. The sleeves were too long. Her hands were fully hidden inside them. This increased her appeal for some reason. Maybe he should have forced her to sleep fully clothed. Perhaps he would not be burning in lust if she had been fully clothed. All these wild thoughts would not been running through his mind. They stood unmoving for some time. She had not made eye contact ever since she had exited the bathroom. Her eyes were pointed to the floor. Her cheeks had a scarlet tinge. Eventually, he miraculously mustered the willpower to leave the room. He no longer intended to say anything to her. Wait, her eyes landed on his chest before quickly darting away. Her blush became a shade darker. He remembered that he was shirtless and mentally cursed. She approached him. The hair on the back of his neck rose. She stopped in front of him and crossed her arms. Do you need something? She shook her head. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun that exposed her neck. He forced his eyes not to wander to enticing places. She overcame her shyness and looked up at him. Thanks for letting me be a crybaby. I'll just have to unleash my inner crybaby one day so that we're even. She rolled her eyes. Please don't. It wouldn't be a good look for you. You're allowed to be a crybaby but I'm not. Just like how your look wouldn't look good on me. Imagine me wearing your clothes. Her words were ironic. His shirt looked better on her than it would ever look on him. Seriously though, thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable. We're a team, remember? We watch out for one another. She gave him an affectionate smile. It nearly crumbled as quickly as it had formed. She took a step back as if it was dangerous for her to stand so close to him. She stared at her feet. What's wrong? Nothing. Then why are you avoiding my eyes? She lifted her eyes. I'm not. You were. His response angered her. She glared at him. He raised an eyebrow. Why are you getting angry? The glare intensified. Who said I'm angry? Women were strange at times. She was angry at him despite him not having done anything that warranted her anger. He thought of a way to defuse the situation. You're not going to poison me while I'm sleeping, are you? She seemed offended. Why would you think of such a thing? Maybe that's too drastic. Are you going to shave my eyebrows? Her glare mellowed. No. Paint my nails in permanent rainbow-colored nail polish. Wait, what? She cracked a minuscule smile. No. Dye my hair in neon orange and tell Naruto that I did it because he's my idol. She laughed. No, I'm not heartless. He smirked. She smiled. Good night. Likewise. She raised an eyebrow. Likewise. Yes. You couldn't just say good night back to me. I don't associate myself with that kind of language. It's terrible for my aesthetic. She rolled her eyes. I can't believe that you just told me that saying goodnight is bad for your aesthetic. It's terrible, terrible, she repeated in an exaggeratedly detached tone. He was not impressed by her lame imitation. She stood on her tiptoes and brought her arms around his neck. The embrace she gave him was tighter than usual. The shirt she was wearing rose even higher as if just to spite him. Thank you for looking out for me. Her voice was dripping with gratitude. He pressed her against him. He was painfully reminded that she was not wearing a bra. Stop thanking me. I've told you multiple times that I have your back. She kissed his cheek. His weakness as a man who was burning in lust made him wish her lips had landed a little bit to the left, on top of his lips. Her lips lingered on his cheek for longer than usual. She extracted herself from him. He found himself unable to accept it. He wanted her to keep holding him and making him feel like he was not alone in this harsh world. He needed her. She turned around. He grabbed her by the waist and pressed her frame against his chest. He rested his chin on her shoulder. He absorbed her warmth and savored her scent. Holding her no longer satisfied him. He needed to feel her. He needed to feel the body he dreamt about. His hand unhurriedly slid up her side, memorizing the feel of her curves. Both of them were barely breathing. Her breath hitched when his hand grazed her breast. He froze. The resolve to not give in to his emotions was crumbling little by little. In that moment, all he wanted to do was to free himself from the prison of his own making. He wanted to succumb to the desires of his heart and his body. The voice that constantly cautioned him against succumbing to his desires softened to a feeble whisper. What should I do when I feel so helpless against my desires? He wrapped his fingers around her neck as if to strangle her. The hold was too loose to hinder her breathing. Her pulse rushed under his fingers. The fragility of her neck enticed him. She grabbed his forearm with both hands, but she did not attempt to pull his hand away from her neck. He gently bent her neck to the right. She did not resist. He grabbed the fabric of her shirt with his teeth and pulled it to the left, exposing the area around her neck even more. He lowered his face. He paused hesitantly before planting his lips on her porcelain skin. She gasped. Her fingers tightened around his arm. The softness of her skin lured him into repeating the action. He kissed her warm skin over and over again. He was pouring fuel on the flames of desire that were burning in his gut. His kisses became more passionate as he traveled up her neck. She gasped when he kissed a sensitive spot. He flinched when her nails sank into his arm. The stinging sensation in his arm felt like a bucket of ice-cold water that had been poured over his head. It sobered him up. He released her. She faced him. Her face was scarlet. The look in her eyes captivated him. He understood what it meant. She did not want it to end yet. She tentatively placed her hands on his pectorals. The forwardness of the action and the warmth of her hands made him gulp. She kept her eyes low so that they would not meet his. Her gaze shifted to his left and settled on his stump. She stretched her hand to his stump. He tensed when she touched his amputated arm and started tracing the scars on it. He suddenly felt insecure about not being whole. She felt his unease and looked up at him. He swiftly looked away before their eyes could connect. She leaned towards his disfigured arm and planted a kiss on it. "UTT told me that flawless BB beauty doesn't exist. Don't be ashamed. It's okay," she whispered. She planted another kiss on his stump. The gesture warmed his heart. He felt no regrets for loving her. The hand that had been feeling his scars rejoined the one that was still on his chest. She admired his chest. She brushed her fingers over his left nipple and licked her lips nervously. Her shaky and uncertain hands glided over his chest, abdomen and sides. He shuddered as she caressed his torso. He grew tired of being idle, bent down and started kissing her neck. She released a shaky breath and arched her neck up, giving him further access to it. She pulled his head closer. She moaned softly when he kissed that sensitive spot again. The sound stirred something in his gut. He caressed her waist. He sneaked his hand under her shirt as he kissed her neck. She tensed when he laid his hand on her warm and bare lower back. He carefully lowered his hand. Her breath hitched when his hand touched her bum, but she did not remove his hand. He squeezed her bum. He was sure that feeling her bum had comprised his sanity a little bit. He pulled back so that he could see her eyes. There were many emotions that were swimming in her lavender eyes. Shock, guilt, excitement, desire, dread, passion, pleasure. With his hand still on her bum, he pulled her closer to him. She wrapped her arms around his neck. He lowered his face as she lifted hers. She closed her eyes when their noses touched. Her shallow breaths tickled his mouth. He closed his eyes. He had never known that lust could be so powerful, that it could consume his entire body and mind to the point where nothing else but his sexual desire mattered to him. He desired nothing more than to have his way with her, to have her pinned under him and moaning his name into his ear. He desired to that closeness and oneness that mere cuddles could never provide. He wanted that unparalleled level of raw intimacy. He desired to show her that he trusted her enough to allow himself to be entirely exposed and vulnerable. He did not merely desire pleasure. He longed for something deeper than the cheap sexual gratification that was readily available at any given brothel. He wanted to make love to her. He did not want to merely give her his body, but he wanted to give her every part of himself. There was less than an inch between their parted lips. Only the slightest tilt of his head was all that would be required to join their lips. There was nothing standing in his way. Except himself. He clenched his jaw. She was forbidden fruit. Forbidden fruit was off limits for a reason. With a heavy heart, he leaned away before their lips could touch. Get some sleep. It pained him to say it. His own voice sounded foreign to his ears. Her eyes snapped open. She swiftly stepped back and pointed her gaze to the floor. He glanced down. His body had reacted to the stimulation. He was certain that Hinata had seen it, probably even felt it considering the way he had been holding her. This whole situation was becoming too much for him. He suddenly felt claustrophobic, as if the bedroom was too cramped for 2 occupants. He felt the urge to run away. They avoided one another's eyes. Hinata seemed haunted by what had transpired. She probably wished the ground would open up and swallow her. She seemed so overwhelmed that he was worried that she would have a panic attack. She surprisingly regained her composure to the point where she nearly seemed to be normal. She still avoided his eyes. He watched her unblinkingly as she moved to the futon. His gaze alternated between her exposed neck, her legs and her hips. His eyes were completely locked on her hips in the end. Were his eyes deceiving him, or was she swaying her hips more than usual? He continued staring at her even after she had lied down. He switched off the light and closed the door. He woke up just in time to hear himself scream. He shot up drenched in sweat. He looked around in panic until he realized that it had been nothing but a nightmare. He got up and went outside for some fresh air. The sky was dark with no stars in sight. The chilliness of the air told him that it was around 1 in the morning. Crickets were chirping in the darkness. The nightmare was slowly fading from his memory. It had started off with him making love to Hinata. It had concluded with him plunging his katana into her heart. There had been so much blood. His mother had appeared in the dream. He still remembered the humiliation he had felt when she had seen him. He still remembered the crippling shame he had felt after his mother discovered that he had taken Hinata's life after having stolen her innocence. His mind drifted to the events that had taken place before he had slept. He was now certain about why Hinata had kissed him that day. Her recent actions made it obvious. Even her cryptic statement made it obvious. Maybe at some point they'll finally start being honest with one another and just say whatever it is that needs to be said. The arms of the very woman he had murdered in his dreams embraced his torso. She pressed her forehead against his back. Do you want to talk about your dream? No, all right. They pretended as if the incident that had occurred a few hours ago had not transpired. The tension in his body ebbed away as she held him onto him. His distress gradually dwindled. How would life be if he had someone to hold him whenever his dreams became too horrifying to bear? Aren't you supposed to be sleeping? What happened to us being a team, Sasuke? The crickets continued chirping. The lone owl continued hooting. Hinata continued holding him. He woke up to the smell of food. There was a nasty knot in his neck thanks to sleeping on the couch. He stared at the ceiling as he contemplated what had transpired last night. He found Hinata standing by the stove and stirring a pot. Her attire made him frown. Why had she not changed back into her own clothes? Why was he still being punished? How was the CC couch? She said without turning. Fine, I just thought I should prepare BRBR breakfast to thank you. For a moment he saw the Hinata from 5 years ago. A short-haired girl who had a horrible stutter and struggled with eye contact. Okay, the air was heavily saturated with awkwardness. The awkwardness seemed to be increasing by the second. Hinata made sure not to look at him. He stood there not knowing what to say or do, so he took the simplest course of action. He escaped. The dust pink bra on top of the clothing hamper in the bathroom only added to his plight. The garment forced his mind to wander to unwanted sexual thoughts. He washed his face and brushed his teeth. He stared at his reflection in the mirror. He had gained weight since Hinata had started nagging about his diet. His complexion also reflected more vitality. He paced around the small room until he finally decided to stop being a coward and confront her. He found her standing by the bookshelf in the lounge. She seemed quite interested in the book she was reading, exaggeratedly so. He stared at her until she stopped ignoring him. What is it? He merely continued staring at her. She continued staring at the book in her hand. I expected you to have enough sense to put on proper clothing. Her cheeks turned pink. She returned the book to the bookshelf. Can't you handle a bit of skin? He was taken aback by the boldness of her question. No, this was not the 12-year-old girl who struggled to look people in the eye. That girl had grown up. Do you really want me to answer that? He approached her. The way she started backing away as the space between them diminished made him feel like a predator. He backed her into a corner and trapped her there with his arm. We need to talk. About what? He lost himself in her lavender eyes. He sometimes felt like those eyes could see into his very soul. He eventually remembered that there was a pressing issue to discuss. The elephant in the room. She looked around. I don't see an elephant. He sighed. She smiled. Very funny. He had briefly suspected that Hinata had feelings for him after she had kissed him 2 weeks ago, but he had quickly dismissed it. He realized that he had been in denial. He had willed himself into believing that she did not possess any feelings for him. Even though the signs had been right there all along. He had subconsciously ignored the signs that hinted that the feelings she had for him were beyond platonic. Just like when she had made that statement last night. He remembered the last time they had went to a restaurant. Her behavior had been odd. She had been borderline cold towards the waitress who served them. He had asked her about it and she had denied that she was being hostile to the waitress. Why had it not occurred to him that she was behaving that way because the waitress was openly flirting with him? You don't think there's an elephant in the room? She had been receptive to his advances last night. She had not even been a passive participant towards the end. He could no longer deny the evidence. Hinata Hyuga was either sexually or romantically attracted to him, or both. No, how come don't I believe you? I don't know, maybe you should be the one who answers that question. She pressed her index finger against his lips before he could reply. There's nothing to talk about, Sasuke. Let's eat. She removed her finger. He brushed his hair away from his eyes. Have I ever told you that long hair looks good on you? No, well it is. It's really cute. If that's the impression that it gives then I'll cut it. She pouted. Don't. I don't want to look cute. I'm joking. It makes you look rugged and dangerous. In a good way. Is that an indirect way of telling me you're attracted to me? Her blush returned with a vengeance. She dropped her eyes to his chest. You're doing it again. Why are you avoiding my eyes? What if I don't feel like looking at you? What if I do? You can't always get what you want in life, can you? She replied. What do I have to do to get you to look at me? Quote. Engraving my name across the whole Hokage monument would be a good start. That's a bit extravagant, don't you think? I thought you were a simple girl. She smiled. I guess I've had a change of character. He grew impatient and tipped up her chin, forcing her to look at him. That's better. He did not let go of her chin. She looked at him defiantly. I still need to go home and shower before heading to work. I'm going to start running late soon. Let's eat. You won't leave this place until we resolve this. Her eyebrows rose. Excuse me, you can't keep me here against my will. I can keep you here against your will. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. You know it. Anger seeped into her lavender orbs. Stop being a bully and leave me alone, Sasuke. You're starting to annoy me. Why are you being so stubborn, Hinata? It's ironic how you, of all people, are lecturing me about being stubborn. Come again. You heard me. He clenched his jaw and gave her a hard stare. She held her ground and reciprocated his expression. He scoffed and stepped aside. She was already making her way to the kitchen when he spoke again. Don't fool yourself into thinking that this conversation is over. It's going to happen one way or another. There was an oppressive atmosphere as they ate. Neither of them said a word and no eye contact was made. He was the first one to finish eating. She usually asked him if he wanted a second serving but did not ask him this time around. She merely stood up and left after finishing her food. She had no interest in cleaning up after herself that day. He did not bother thanking her for cooking. She changed back into her own clothes and found him washing the dishes. He ignored her as she waited behind him. I'm leaving. She awkwardly lingered until she realized that he had not interest in responding. She spun around and left. He quickly dried his hands and followed her. He caught her wrist as she was about to exit the front door. She spun around furiously. Upset lavender eyes met Onyx eyes. He released her wrist. Don't let that pathetic supervisor of yours drag you down. Chin up, chest out. Show her you're not intimidated. Show her that you won't let her have that kind of power over you. The hurt and anger receded from her eyes. She nodded determinedly. She hesitated before enveloping him in a hug. He pulled her close to him. She tightened her arms around his neck. I have an off day tomorrow but I want to spend time with Ino. I'll see you on Thursday. She extracted herself from him. He recaptured her waist, pulled her back to his chest and buried his nose in her hair. Why are you in a rush to abandon me, princess? Don't they teach that loneliness kills in the Hyuga clan? She returned his hug. They remained locked in an embrace for quite some time. It was almost as if they had forgotten that they were angry at one another. Don't think that you can bribe me into not being angry at you by doing this, Sasuke. Then why are you smiling? I'm not. I can hear it in your voice. She finally pulled away. He grabbed her hand. She faced him once again. She opened her mouth to protest. He nonchalantly kissed her forehead before she could say anything. She blushed. Bye, Sasuke. She reluctantly pulled her hand away. The cabin felt colder when she left. Hinata sighed contentedly as she sank into the bathtub. The hot water was soothing to her tired muscles. She needed a relaxing bath to ease the stress that had accumulated from recent events. It would not be an exaggeration to say that she had experienced her worst day at work the previous day. It would also not be an exaggeration to say that she wanted to pull her hair out because of that whole episode with Sasuke. Okay, maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration, but things had truly become frustratingly complicated between her and Sasuke. It had been 2 weeks and some odd days since she had botched Sasuke's attempt to commit. She still could not bring herself to call the deed by its name. She felt as if calling the deed by its name would make it more real. She preferred to almost pretend that she had imagined the whole incident. It was a form of denial. It could not possibly be healthy, but it certainly helped with dealing with the trauma. Did Sasuke know that he gave her sleepless nights? There were times where she would struggle to fall asleep because of worrying that he would break his promise. There were nights where she would find his lifeless, bleeding body in her dreams. She resented him for what he had done. She could not yet find it within herself to forgive him. His actions had traumatized her too severely. Being unforgiving was foreign to her. Sasuke made her feel and do things that were foreign to her. She would forgive him one day. She hated holding grudges. Grudges were like destructive pests in a lush field. They destroyed everything until all that was beautiful perished. She had grown too attached to Sasuke. That was why her reaction to his attempt to abandon her had been so extreme. She still could not believe that she had threatened to take her own life. The idea of him abandoning her had thrown her into a pit of desperation. She had failed to accept that he would just forsake her after everything they had been through. She still could not accept it even now. He had no right to do that. Not after everything he had put her through. He had wreaked havoc on her emotional and mental well-being. He had corrupted her with his darkness. He had introduced her to his horrifying demons. He had dragged her into vicious fights over and over again. She would not allow all that to be in vain. He needed to keep living to compensate her for what he had put her through. Her heart sometimes filled with bitterness when he said that they were a team. Did teammates abandon one another on the battlefield? Did they pointlessly throw away their lives even though they knew how much it would hurt those who had been left behind? She gazed at her reflection in the mirror. The mirror never became foggy. They routinely applied a special wax on it that prevented it from becoming foggy. It was slightly odd that the person who had designed these apartments had found it necessary to include a mirror that would enable the tenants to watch themselves while they were bathing. She cupped her and lightly squeezed them. She proceeded to examine them for lumps or any concerning changes. She had felt insecure when her had started developing. She had been alarmed when she had noticed that her were becoming larger than those of her peers. Those insecurities had faded when she had finally started embracing her womanhood. Her eyes remained fixed on her reflection. She was a fully developed woman, outwardly speaking. Her plump assets, as Ino liked to call them, physiologically placed her among women instead of girls. She wondered what Sasuke thought of her womanhood. How did she compare to undoubtedly fully fledged women? Was she just a little girl in his eyes compared to women like Kurenai? Was her womanhood enough for him? Enough for him to have no qualms about making love to her? Would he turn her away if she offered herself to him? Her body became warmer. Would he touch her with the sensuality she had tasted when he had kissed her neck? Would he be rough and ungentle? Would he handle her with the same callousness that he displayed whenever he lost his temper? Would he handle her body with the same gentleness that he exercised when he kissed her forehead or stroked her hair? The memories of their incident started replaying in her mind. She exhaled slowly. Something stirred in her stomach. She touched her arms. Her skin was covered in goosebumps. The thumping of her heart had become more forceful. Unavoidable sensations were rife all over her body. She recalled the words that had made her shudder. What should I do when I feel so helpless against my desires? She related to those words to a frightening degree. What was she supposed to do when she felt so helpless against her desire for Sasuke? She lifted her eyes to the mirror and inspected her body. So this pale-skinned failure before her was desired by Sasuke Uchiha. The pathetic Hyuga who did not even love herself made his blood run hot. She was torn between feeling flattered and apprehensive. Sasuke burned for her. She would not have believed it if she had not caught him watching her with a certain look in his eyes multiple times. The advances he had made on her last night had simply confirmed what she had suspected for some time. She gulped as she recalled how he had touched her. It had been foolish of her to think that Sasuke was too pressed by his troubles to burn for anyone. She tilted her head to the side to get a better view of her neck. What was so special about her neck that he would ravish it with those warm lips of his as if his life depended on it? She was grateful that he had quelled his desires and stopped things from progressing. She doubted she would have been capable of stopping things on her own. He had saved her from doing something she would regret. A terrible idea had possessed her in the midst of her desire for him. The recklessness of that idea still shocked her. She had entertained the idea of simply shedding her oversized shirt, shedding her underwear, silently leading him to his futon, pulling him down with her and letting him demonstrate his desire for her. She had entertained the idea of diving headfirst into having her first time. She covered her face and groaned. How could she even think of such a thing? That was so uncharacteristic of her. She had not been raised like that. She knew better than to throw away her purity so carelessly. Was it impossible to reverse the hands of time? Wasn't there a way to return back to the earlier days of her youth, when the only sexual thoughts that had plagued her had been about holding hands with the male species and partaking in chaste kisses? She wished she could regain her childhood innocence. The heart was unbelievably irresponsible. Why did she have to burn for Sasuke Uchiha of all people? Why did she have to burn for someone as unstable as him? Her heart lacked even the slightest shred of sense. The fact that she had kissed him 2 weeks ago was evidence. The incriminating statement she had blurted out last night was further evidence of her heart's stupidity. Maybe at some point they'll finally start being honest with one another and just say whatever it is that needs to be said. It did not take a genius to figure out what she meant. She had basically confessed her feelings for him and hinted that she knew that he wanted her. A nearly forgotten memory surfaced in her mind. It was a conversation that had taken place when they had bumped into one another at the bookshop that they both favored. It must have been their 4th or 5th encounter since their first encounter at the Yoshino tree. The words they had exchanged replayed in her mind. You know what happened to the girls that used to stalk me? What? I fed them to my snakes. I'm not sure you're aware of this, Sasuke-san, but Hyuga make for terrible food. And who told you this? The snakes. He had smirked in response to her answer, his burdened dark eyes penetrating into hers. That was the first time she had felt it, a certain pull towards him. There had just been something about him that had a magnetic effect on her. Some people called it chemistry. It had been a type of chemistry that was not platonic. It had baffled her. He had been gaunt and sickly looking at the time. His expression had nearly been constantly gloomy. She had never seen him smile. He had been borderline cold towards her. And yet there had just been something about him that attracted her. She had dismissed the chemistry as nothing to worry about. It had felt too insignificant to brood over. It had merely been a teaspoon of attraction. She had not anticipated that the teaspoon of attraction would increase to a greater quantity as they became closer. It had led her to where she was now, her heart, mind and body being captivated by the damaged Uchiha. Her mind wandered to what had probably been one of the best nights for her in a long time, that summer evening not so long after the truth about the Uchiha massacre had been revealed to her. The night he had took her out to cheer her up. That evening had opened her eyes. It had made her realize just how powerful the attraction she felt for him had become. The realization that her feelings had developed to such a perplexing degree had made her panic to the extent that she reverted to her old ways. She had avoided him like an infectious disease for an entire week. She had later on lied to him by telling him that the hospital had been severely understaffed that week. Avoiding him for an entire week had not helped. Her heart had already been too comprised. Things had only worsened from there. She sighed. Why was the heart so ridiculously irresponsible? Why Sasuke of all people? There were a number of reasons why that insignificant teaspoon of attraction had developed to such immense proportions. She saw herself in him. His brokenness and his scars drew her to him. The fact that they were birds of a feather allowed her to connect with him on a uniquely deep level. She was enchanted by his sense of humor. He had his own type of witty and sarcastic humor. She would sometimes find herself smiling when she randomly thought about the things he had said to her. She thought about that stupid smirk that he would wear whenever he outwitted her. The stupid smirk that made her heart flutter. She thought about how he would look at her with that annoying look of his whenever he bested her in their banter with those beautiful dark eyes of his. She felt like she could be her true self around him. She had felt this way even before she had revealed her secret to him. He just gave her a sense of ease that gave her the liberty to unreservedly be herself. He made her feel comfortable enough to be weak, to be broken, to be silly, to be childish, to be vulnerable and to voice fears and insecurities that she never told anyone else. He treated her like an equal. He did not treat her like a fragile princess like how Kiba and a number of people treated her. He did not see her mellow and soft-spoken character as a reason to treat her like she was a delicate glass figurine. He understood her needs. He knew when to hold her when she was feeling down. She felt safe in his embrace. She felt protected. She felt cared for. He knew when to kiss her forehead to make her feel better. He knew when to tell her words of encouragement. He knew the right things to say. He even insisted on reminding her how special she was even though she was worthless. He pretended that she was valuable for her sake. He knew when to be silent. He had even learned how to handle her when her hormonal mood swings got the better of her. Not even Neji had understood her to that extent. Shino was the only male who came close to understanding her like Sasuke. He hated sweet things. He never took his coffee with milk or sugar. He smirked way more often than the ordinary person. He smiled way too rarely. He was obsessed with tomatoes. She had grown fond of his strange quirks. There were many things that she loved about him, but he was not a bouquet of sunflowers. There were just as many things she hated about him. His words were abusive at times. He was very talented at using his words to hurt her. He could make her feel as if she was nothing if he wanted to. He harbored a ferocious temper which made him violent and spiteful whenever it was unleashed. She was afraid of his temper. She sometimes wondered if he would threaten to hurt her like he had threatened to hurt Kiba if she pushed him enough. He was cynical and pessimistic. She hated herself, but even she was less negative. His pessimism was draining. He was suicidal, or had been suicidal at least. She felt resentment welling up inside her as she remembered what he had attempted to do after Shikamaru's party. He isolated himself from everyone except her. He did not even try to reintegrate himself into society. It frustrated her. He could be infuriatingly stubborn. He was too proud at times. He simultaneously had a superiority complex and an inferiority complex. It was a strange contradiction. His strength as a shinobi sometimes made him believe he was better than those who were weaker than him, but his past deeds made him feel like he was garbage when compared to people who had not walked his path. He resisted healing. He sometimes became angry at her when she started the conversation about overcoming his past. She sometimes thought that maybe he preferred to remain trapped in his darkness. Despite everything, his faults did not negate her feelings for him. She almost wished that his many faults would make her feelings vanish. It would make things easier. Sasuke was too unstable. He was too volatile. A romantic relationship would never work between them. It was doomed to fail. She sometimes even doubted that their friendship would survive when their fights became so vicious that she felt like their friendship would disintegrate. She remembered the terrible fight that had happened on the last week of summer. She had told him that she never wanted to see him again. She had felt so horrible afterwards. She had never said that to anyone before. More was required for a romantic relationship to survive. The fact that their friendship was on thin ice so often made her doubt that they would manage to make a romantic relationship work. Being more than friends with him was not an option. She could not jeopardize their bond like that. She could not afford to lose him. Moreover, she could not jeopardize her heart like that after Naruto had ripped it to shreds. She hated the war that was raging inside her. Her heart was in conflict with her mind. Her heart desired to give in to her feelings while her mind desired to keep Sasuke at arm's length. It was hell. The Hyuga residence was just as he remembered it, quiet and extravagant. The gates were tall and imposing, as if designed to send a message about the importance of the Hyuga. There were 2 Hyuga guarding the gates of the estate. Their reaction to his presence showed the bloated egos that were typical of Hyuga. The weaklings looked at him as if he was inferior to them, whereas they were the inferior ones. State your purpose. The taller guard addressed him. He had long dark hair and was dressed in a simple, traditional, gray and sleeveless attire. A headband was tied around his forehead. The accessory indicated that he was possibly a member of the branch family. The segregation within the Hyuga was sickening. The taller guard had a look of deep displeasure in his eyes. As if he was vexed with having to talk to someone as lowly as him. It was ironic how those who were discriminated against also discriminated against others. It was akin to how the oppressed sometimes became oppressors themselves once they attained liberation. I wish to talk to Hiyashi. The one who had addressed him sent him a glare. His partner's expression remained neutral. That's Hiyashi-sama to you. We will not permit you to have an audience with him. Things do not work that way, boy. Please leave the premises. He clenched his jaw. He could not remember the last time he had been spoken to in such a patronizing tone. I do not have the time to reason with someone who's little more than a slave. Tell Hiyashi I want to speak to him. What did you say, scum? Replied the guard. He took a threatening step forward. I dare you to repeat what you just said. He smirked. Was he supposed to be afraid? His amused expression made the taller guard glares more vicious. The second guard broke his silence. Saitama, don't let this nobody upset you. He's probably just seeking attention. The second guard was wearing a similar outfit to the taller one. He seemed to be in his mid to late 20s like his fellow guard. He could see the wariness in his eyes even though he appeared to be collected. Perhaps the man could sense how dangerous the person they were dealing with was even though his chakra was suppressed. The aggravated guard composed himself. Please leave. Hiyashi-sama will not be seeing you. Do I have to start breaking bones in order for you to take me to Hiyashi? He could saw rage welling up in the taller one's eyes. Both guards scowled at him. The taller one seemed ready to behead him. You filthy bastard. I'm warning you. Leave before things become very ugly for you. The guard clenched his fists when he noticed that he was not showing any intentions of leaving. He took a step forward. It was the only step he could take. One more step and he would run himself through Sasuke's blade. The Hyuga glared at the blade that was pointed at him with furious indignation. Sasuke saw the shock beneath the indignation. The guard had been stunned by his speed. Bringing his sword had not been a bad idea after all. It certainly increased his persuasiveness. The other Hyuga had slipped into a fighting stance. You imbecile, look around you. This is the Hyuga estate. You have the gall to raise your blade at us on our turf. How bold of you to assume that I'm not capable of dealing with all of you on my own. The man reacted as if he had called his mother a you arrogant son of a bitch. You're delusional. What is the meaning of this? He glanced to his left. Another Hyuga had arrived on the scene. His demeanor hinted that he had a level of authority over the guards despite being noticeably younger. He was dressed in the standard issue shinobi uniform. His head was covered by a blue bandana with a metal plate that was engraved with Konoha's insignia. This man intends to force his way inside and have an audience with Hiyashi-sama, spat the taller guard. So this was the man who had watched over Hinata in her childhood. That explained why he carried so much authority. Not only was he from the main house but Hiyashi had enough faith in him to have him watch over the heiress. I'll inform Hiyashi-sama that you wish to speak to him. Why would you do such a thing? Protested the fuming guard. Stand down, Saitama, commanded Ko. The older Hyuga frowned but submitted. The other guard adopted a non-combatant stance. Would you please withdraw your blade, Uchiha-san? I apologize for the unkind reception. The guards turned deathly pale at the mention of his name. He sheathed his blade. He was certain that if fear had a scent, the entire village would reek because of these two. You made it just in time. I was about to lose my last shred of patience. Who knows what I would have done to these two? He activated his dojutsu. The guards flinched before hurrying out of his way. Thursday came too soon. Nervousness was coursing through Hinata as she approached Sasuke's cabin. Would she be able to evade the subject of their relationship like last time? Would he force her to confront the topic? What would she say to him if he did? She noticed a folded piece of paper that was lying on his doorstep. She picked it up, unfolded it and read the message. I have business to attend to. You are needed at the flower shop. Ino is waiting for you. What a strange message. Why would Ino relay that message through Sasuke? Secondly, what business did Sasuke have to attend to? Take a seat, Sasuke. He sat down opposite the sixth Hokage. The glass panel behind Kakashi provided an expansive view of the village. Kakashi motioned with his hand. The Anbu hidden in the shadows vacated the room. A silent click followed as the door was shut. He recalled the manner in which he had left this office on his last visit. He had been furious. He had even attempted to provoke Kakashi into a fight. He now realized that Kakashi had merely been trying to help him, just like Naruto, Guy and Hinata. Why am I here? You can't even spare a minute to ask your sensei how he's doing. Whined Kakashi. I didn't come here to have a cup of tea with you and I'm certain that's not the reason why you called me here. Ever the perpetual ball of sunshine, I see. I thought Hinata-chan would mellow you a bit. He ignored the comment about Hinata. It was probably a trap that Kakashi had set to tease him about his closeness to Hinata. All signs of playfulness evaporated from the Hokage's demeanor. I'm glad to see the progress you've made, Sasuke. I was starting to think that you were a lost cause. I was doubting you would ever overcome your demons. He scowled. He hated this conversation. Hear me out, Sasuke. Don't storm out. What makes you think there's hope for me? What gave you the idea that I'm ever going to get better? You did. I saw you at the party and I immediately knew there was hope for you. You look healthier now, which means you're eating. You came to a birthday party. You actually seemed to be having a good time before Kiba arrived. And that's enough for you to conclude that my situation is not hopeless. Yes, but I'm not fighting my demons. That's what you think. I beg to differ. The so-called progress you see is simply Hinata's doing. I haven't been doing anything. I've accepted my fate. I'll continue being plagued by this darkness until the day I die. Why should it be that way? Why not put everything you can into overcoming your past? I know it's futile. Do you know the story of my life, Sasuke? He shook his head. He only knew bits and pieces. Let me tell it you then. Kakashi told him about growing up without a mother. He told him about how he became orphaned after his father, a legendary shinobi, committed suicide after being ostracized for failing a mission that had been critical to Konoha's war effort by choosing the lives of his teammates over the mission. He told him about his obsession with being the textbook model of a shinobi and following every rule nearly mechanically. He told him about losing his teammates, Obito and Rin. Kakashi told him about going through grief and depression. He talked about forcing himself into a state of emotional numbness, his dark days in Anbu. He told him about the void in his heart. He talked about how he had struggled with his mental health to the point of being suicidal on missions and not caring about whether he would live or die. He told him about the third Hokage removing him from Anbu after his suicidal tendencies had been noticed. Kakashi told him about his trauma, the nightmares he experienced, the suffocating loneliness of his own making, his bitterness about life, the hatred he had felt for himself. I understand you, Sasuke, because I've been where you are. I overcame those problems and I believe you can too. Their office was silent for a long time. Are you afraid of fighting? Are you afraid that you'll fail to escape your darkness? He felt compelled to be honest after all the man had revealed to him. He nodded. So you prefer to leave things just as they are and not even try to change anything because you're afraid that failing in your attempt to overcome your darkness will make you feel even worse. He nodded again. But fear isn't the only reason, is it? You feel like you don't deserve to be happy. Your guilt about the past makes you feel like you don't deserve to be freed from your darkness. The statement made him nervous. It was as if Kakashi could read his mind. Those words had struck a chord. It was all true. He did not like to admit that part even to himself, but it was true. The fear of failure was not the only reason why he did not want to confront and overcome his demons. A part of him felt like he deserved to be in this state. I know because I used to feel that way too until I realized that maybe I was being too hard on myself. Don't you think you're being too hard on yourself, Sasuke? There are people who have committed far greater sins than you. He swallowed hard. You can't spend the rest of your life at the mercy of your past. You have to overcome it at some point. I can't help it, Kakashi. Everything you've said is true, but I just can't help it. What should I do? He hated the way he sounded, so desperate and vulnerable. Kakashi ran his hand through his hair. He rotated on his chair and gazed at the village through the large glass panel. Fighting is the only way. Kakashi's answer disappointed him. He had hoped that the man who had walked the same path as him would provide a solution he had not thought of. He had hoped that maybe there was a simpler way of solving his problem. At some point you have to start fighting, Sasuke. Maybe you're not ready now. Perhaps that will change with time. The bottom line is you have to fight at some point, said Kakashi. An alcoholic cannot overcome his addiction until he decides to fight his addiction. The same applies to you. An uncomfortable truth struck him. Fighting his darkness was inescapable. Fighting was inevitable if he wanted to keep the promise he had made to Hinata. He could not live like this forever. He would kill himself at some point if he continued refusing to overcome his demons. He would break his promise and kill himself if he did not overcome his inner turmoil. He would have to fight for his freedom. He would have to try at least. He could not keep running from his problems forever. You can't walk in darkness forever. The sun has to shine at some point. He realized that he had quoted the words Hinata's words. Precisely, replied Kakashi. His somber tone had been replaced by a hopeful one. He sighed. I'll have to fight at some point. Fighting is the only way. How had it come to this? He had vowed to never succumb to the idea of actually doing something to escape the darkness that plagued him. He realized why his mindset had shifted so drastically. Hope. Hinata, Guy and Kakashi had given him hope. He had accepted his fate. He would fight eventually. He would start fighting for his happiness. Just not now. There were still things that were holding him back. He still needed that final push. Hope is a dangerous thing, Kakashi. Kakashi was amused. I know, Sasuke. Trust me, I know. Her shock made her freeze like a sculpture when she looked through the tempered glass door of the Yamanaka flower shop. Her heart started running. Ino noticed her standing outside and came out. Come on in, Hina-chan. There was an encouraging smile on her face. She was numb to its effect. Her feet were glued in place. Ino's smile faltered. Hinata-chan. Her legs decided to obey Ino. She felt the overwhelming urge to run away as she entered the flower shop. Her eyes remained on the object of her unease. She was sitting on a stool in front of the counter. She was clad in a pair of gray shorts and a lavender utility jacket with a black tank top underneath it. A Hittite was tied around her forehead. Hinata stopped in front of the girl. The girl was just as tense as she was. She attempted to hide her unease with a grin. The grin seemed forced. It's been a while, Nei-chan. You haven't forgotten that you have an adorable younger sister, have you? Hanabi-chan. Hanabi had not changed from the last time she had seen her. Her eyes carried a craftiness that she had always lacked. She still possessed that excitability that reminded her so much of Naruto. Hanabi's excitability was milder though. The realization that she had not seen her only sister for more than 9 months hit her like an unforgiving tidal wave. Shame filled her heart. She felt overwhelmed by the fact that they had reunited so abruptly and unceremoniously. She was still at a loss for words when Hanabi handed her an envelope that contained the Hyuga's clan insignia. A letter from father as per Uchiha-san's request. Sasuke arranged this. Yes, answered Ino. The blonde averted her gaze as her eyes became melancholic. I just wish that I had known how you feel about yourself. I would have tried my best to be there for you. The envelope in her hand crinkled as her hands tightened. They knew. Sasuke had told them that she hated herself. How could he reveal her most guarded secret? She had shown him the ugliest part of her. She had undressed herself and allowed him to lay his eyes on her hideousness. She had unclothed herself for him alone. She had not stood before him in her so that he could tell the world about what he had seen. How could he betray her like that? What's going on here? The sadness disappeared from Ino's eyes. Only a fiery determination and resolve remained. Sasuke-kun wants you to stop hating yourself. He recruited me to help him convince you to stop hating yourself. He said that a second opinion would make his argument more effective. I'm here because Uchiha-san wanted to reunite us. He said that siblings shouldn't be estranged. He also said a third opinion wouldn't hurt. Especially considering that I'm your sister. Sasuke-kun was initially going to hear too, but something came up at the last minute, stated Ino. Hanabi smiled. You have a handsome guy who goes around threatening to break bones for your sake. I'm a bit envious, Nei-chan. Break bones. He showed up at the estate but the guards didn't recognize him. They refused to let him in. He threatened that he would start breaking bones if they kept on refusing to take him to father. She was mortified. Ino was amused by her reaction. Your boyfriend sure is a rough one, babe. I've told you a dozen times that it's not like that, Ino-chan. Ino's lips curled into a sly smirk. Whatever you say, love. She unsealed the envelope that Hanabi had given her and unfolded the letter inside. She instantly recognized her father's immaculate calligraphy. To Hinata, Uchiha-san has raised an issue to me regarding the way you perceive yourself. He is of the opinion that our clan is largely responsible for the hatred you feel for yourself. I write this letter to you not just because Uchiha-san insisted that I write it but because I strongly feel that we are indeed to blame for damaging you. I've known this for the longest time. I merely chose to turn a blind eye to the fact that you see yourself as worthless as my greatest regret as a father. We mercilessly pushed you far beyond what was healthy for a young child in our attempt to produce the heiress we desired. We then shunned you, mocked you, emotionally and verbally abused you when you failed to become who we wanted you to be. I casted you aside when I realized that Hanabi would be more suitable as an heiress. We continued to terribly mistreat you even after you had been discarded as an heiress. You eventually could no longer bear our hostility and left the Hyuga estate. We retaliated by unofficially disowning you for leaving instead of admitting the error of our ways. For that, I deeply apologize. We taught you to hate yourself, Hinata. Our actions and words made you feel worthless, and that is why you feel worthless even today. She was shocked by what she was reading. She looked at Ino and Hanabi. Ino gave her an encouraging smile. There was a tinge of sadness in Hanabi's eyes. We treated you as though you were worthless ever since you were a young child, and you eventually believed that you were as worthless as we made you feel. There is nothing that I can say to erase the past. Mere words cannot atone for the sins we committed against you, but I wish that this letter will at least impart one truth to you. You are not a failure, daughter. You never were. How could you possibly be worthless while you possess such strength? You've never lacked strength. You merely lack the kind of strength that we wanted from you. You lack the qualities of the leader we desired. You've always been compassionate. Your compassion is your greatest strength. Unfortunately, your compassion often stood in the way of you being the heiress we desired. It made you too delicate. It made you hold back in fights and made you seem weak. You often lost to your sister not because of your incompetence but because of the gentleness that was born from your compassion. Your compassion made you value the lives of even the most insignificant insects. It made you seem too soft-hearted to lead the clan. Your compassion enabled you to see beyond the division in the clan and treat the members of the branch house as if they were your equals. This made you seem like you had no respect for our culture and our ways. Your compassion made you seem too forgiving. You always rushed to everyone's aid. That kind of selflessness gave the impression that you would be unable to prioritize the interests of the clan at the expense of outsiders when the situation called for it. Yes, you may fail to be the heiress, but that does not make you worthless. The strength that you have is one that many of us can never hope to attain. You're precious, Hinata. You're as precious as the beautiful flowers that your mother loved. We failed to appreciate the precious flower that you were. We trampled on that flower instead of nurturing it. We trampled on you until you lost your sense of worth. Despite all odds, the flower that we trampled on eventually evolved into something even more beautiful. You learned to be aggressive in battle and unleashed your full potential. You also overcame your timidness. We never congratulated you for that. We only continued scorning you for your failure to be the heiress. I am proud of the young woman you have become. I prioritized my role as a clan head over my role as a father. I was too firm with you, too lax in defending you, and too harsh in criticizing you as a result. I sided with the clan instead of siding with my daughter. It is time that I admit my failure as a father and stop using my duty as the head of the clan to justify my actions. I apologize on behalf of myself and the clan and hereby revoke your unofficial disownment. Any member of the clan who will from henceforth speak of you in an unjust manner will be held accountable and be punished. I wish you happiness, daughter. Enjoy your freedom, Hinata. Unlike Hanabi and I, you are not bound by the yoke of duty to a clan that glorifies the ancient ways of senseless segregation and discrimination among its own. I am a failure in more ways than one. I have always disagreed with how things work in the clan, but I never found the courage to swim against the current. If you do find it within yourself to forgive me, please do pass by the estate every now and then. I would appreciate to have a cup of tea with my daughter. Your father, Hiyashi Hyuga. I'm glad that you've allowed Hinata into your life, said Kakashi. People like us have a tendency of pushing everyone away. It was somewhat of a surprise that they had been talking for so long. I've come to realize that life is more crappy when you're entirely alone. Forming bonds with our fellow humans is only natural. We're designed to be social creatures, after all. Kakashi rested his chin on his clasped hands. What is Hinata to you? How is that any of your concern? Do you love her? It's none of your concern. Kakashi sighed. Play nice, Sasuke. You know that I didn't invite you here for some casual chit-chat. I wouldn't be asking this if I didn't think it was important. His jaw tightened. He did not feel comfortable discussing his feelings for Hinata. He valued his privacy. Being forthcoming was definitely a pain in the ass. What if I do? Kakashi laughed. Are you embarrassed, Sasuke? No matter how old you get, my dear Sasuke-kun, you'll always be my cute little genin. Patronize me one more time, Kakashi. I dare you. Kakashi held up his hands to pacify him. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Kakashi seemed to be struggling not to giggle. The man could be so immature at times. Are you done? Kakashi cleared his throat. Does she have feelings for you? The signs are there. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Because you want to protect her from yourself, right? You think you're too volatile and that you'll end up breaking her heart. Quote. Kakashi had hit the bullseye once again. I know, because I would have done the same thing if I was in the same space that you're in. Am I wrong for wanting to protect her from myself? You know that it's not completely about protecting her, Sasuke. You feel like she's too good for you. You also feel like you don't deserve that kind of happiness. It all stems from the fact that a part of you feels like you're meant to suffer. He averted his gaze. He wished the man would stop talking. Stop punishing yourself, Sasuke. You already have enough regrets. Don't let Hinata become one of them. I should ignore the fact that I might hurt her. No, I just said that she doesn't have to become another regret. Don't allow her to slip through your fingers if you really love her. Sasuke smirked. You speak of love so passionately. You're sure have become sentimental, Kakashi. Come on now, Sasuke. I'm not the only one who has become sentimental. Who would have thought that Sasuke Uchiha would fall in love? What if I mess things up? What if getting involved like that ends up ruining our relationship? I can't afford to lose her. You won't know until you try. You're basically saying I should gamble. Isn't life full of gambles that bear a high risk and can potentially yield a high reward? The risk might be worth it if you love her. There was a knock. Shizune entered the office and shut the door. She looked at them curiously. Where are the guards? I gave them an ice cream break. She shook her head. Really, Hokage-sama? She approached Kakashi's desk. Here are those registers I told you about, sir. Ah, the bane of my existence, muttered Kakashi. It comes with the job, sir. Are we done here? Asked Sasuke. You may leave. He stood up. Kakashi stopped him after he had taken a few steps. Sasuke. He turned. You can't walk in darkness, forever. The sun has to shine at some point. He nodded. Kakashi stood behind his secretary, wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. Her cheeks turned pink. Some gambles are worth it, Sasuke. What happened to keeping things professional, Kakashi? Complained Shizune. You mean to tell me that this tiny display of affection is more unprofessional than the fact that you moved in with your boss? Really, dear? I moved in with you because you practically begged me. What sort of man grovels like that? What sort of Hokage grovels at his secretary's feet? Kakashi whispered into her ear. The blush on her cheeks darkened. That was when Sasuke knew that he had overstayed his welcome. I'm leaving, you dirty old man. Who are you calling a dirty old man? Questioned Shizune. There was a ferocious look in her eyes. He responded with the cockiest smirk he could muster. She sent him a glare. There was another knock on the door. Enter. Shikamaru entered. He groaned when he noticed the Hokage and his secretary. Damn it, not this again. I'm here to work. I'm not here to watch you two being all lovey-dovey. What happened to keeping things professional in this office? I asked the same thing. This old man doesn't seem to know how to keep his hands to himself, replied Shizune. You're actually here to work, Shikamaru. I thought that you were here to perpetually complain. And weren't you defending me just a minute ago, dear? Why are you calling me an old man? I'm only 2 years older than you. I'm 32. You mean 34. Yes, that's what I said. The bottom line is that I'm still youthful. Youthful, Shikamaru voice with lifted eyebrows. You gotta be kidding me. You're using guy's vocabulary now? Asked Shizune. She was unimpressed. Did I just say youthful? That's odd. Shizune sniffed at Kakashi's face. Don't tell me you used that cheap fabric conditioner on your mask again. I told you to use the one I bought. You've got to be kidding me, Shikamaru muttered beside him. I don't understand why you insist that I use fabric conditioner. The scent can be used to track me. Who's going to be tracking you inside the Hokage Tower with malicious intent? Alright, we get it. You're in a relationship. You moved in together. We get it. Can you please keep your domestic disputes at home and can we please start acting like we run a village here and not a comedy show? Shizune had the decency to be embarrassed. Kakashi did not. He whispered into his woman's ear and playfully ran his hand down her leg. She smacked his hand away and reprimanded him. Shikamaru turned to him and released an exasperated sigh while shaking his head. He smelled of tobacco. Can you believe this, Sasuke? Fabric conditioner. He gave the couple the most disapproving expression he could muster and shook his head at them. How disappointing, he said as he left. It was nearly sunset. The sweet scent of a multitude of flowers danced around the Yamanaka flower shop as Hinata questioned everything she thought about herself. I was shocked when Sasuke-kun told me that you hate yourself. It broke my heart to be honest, stated Ino. Could it really be that she was not a worthless failure after all? Was there really no reason for her to despise herself? Hating herself was all that she knew. Loving herself was such an unfamiliar concept to her. It seemed wrong. Despite that, she could not deny that her father and her current companions had presented a striking argument. It's all because of them, Hina-chan. She now doubted that she had ever woken up one day and decided on her own that she deserved to hate herself. Her clan had always made her feel worthless for as long as she could remember. She had been convinced that she was indeed worthless. She had began hating herself at any early age. Children were highly impressionable, weren't they? Would she have ever doubted anything that so many adults had been telling her? No, a child would have simply known no better. She had never stopped to ponder her worthlessness. It had always been undeniable to her. In her mind, there had never been an alternative. The belief had been ingrained into her through and through. The belief had been written into her very DNA. You're amazing, Nei-chan. You're kind. You're hardworking. You never give up. You're a highly competent kunoichi. She was a competent kunoichi. How could she be worthless if she was competent in her occupation? Why had she never asked herself this? Was it that she had been too blinded by her extremely negative self-esteem to even consider it? That's what abuse does, Hina-chan. Victims sometimes end up believing the damaging things their abusers say. The hate you feel towards yourself is not your own. We trampled on you until you lost your sense of worth. Her eyes were slowly opening. She was beginning to see her reality for what it was, a result of abuse. They never liked you, Hinata. You were never the golden girl that they wanted. You were too gentle and compassionate. You merely lacked the kind of strength that we wanted from you. You lacked the qualities of the leader we desired. Ino was desperately trying to make her realize the truth. Her blue eyes were glossy with unshed tears as she attempted to convince her. You're far from worthless, Hina-chan. You overcame your timidness. You became one of the most skilled shinobi in the clan. You became a medic nin on top of that. How can you possibly be useless despite all those achievements? Questioned Hanabi. Don't compare yourself to people like Sakura, Naruto, Sasuke and Shikamaru. They are simply outliers. It's not possible for all of us to accomplish the things they've accomplished and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how life works. Their accomplishments do not invalidate your own accomplishments. I hope you believe us, Nei-chan. I really do. Ino, Hanabi in an immaculately written letter had came along on a random autumn day and lifted the dark veil from her eyes. Believing that she was worthless suddenly did not make sense anymore. Did this mean that? Did this mean that she could finally stop hating herself? Her heart quickened. For so long, she had been searching for a way to make herself feel like she was not worthless. For so long, she had been searching for a way to escape this hell. The walls of the prison she had been slowly dying in were falling. Could she finally be free? Free from the guilt of being alive due to Neji sacrificing his life for a worthless person like her. Free from the dark thoughts that plagued her so often. Free from misery. The hatred she felt for herself was evaporating, like the raindrops on a pavement after the sun had come out in all its fiery glory. Was her hatred finally going to stop eating away her happiness? She wanted to dance. She wanted to cry. She wanted to laugh hysterically. Her shoulders trembled as tears began gushing down her face. Ino made her way around the counter and took her into her arms. She began sobbing. She no longer had to shoulder the overwhelming burden she had been carrying for so long. Her feelings of worthlessness no longer had to stay with her day and night. They no longer had to define her. She had been drowning in anguish for so long. They had grabbed her by the hand and pulled her out of the dark waters that had been desperate to swallow her. She could breathe again. She was overjoyed that her happiness no longer had to be lessened by the hatred she felt for herself. She mourned the time she had lost loathing herself. She remembered the countless nights she had spent crying because there was a gaping hole inside of her that had been created by the dissatisfaction she felt with being herself. She thought of how she would wake up in the morning, force a smile and act like she was not dying inside. How much time had she spent imprisoned in her despair? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. She did not care that she was rambling like a lunatic as she sobbed into Ino's chest. Tears were now freely streaming down Ino's face. There was a happy smile on her face. Hanabi was trying to hold back her tears but was failing to. Her heart felt like it would burst. She was grateful beyond words for what they had done for her. She was grateful that she had Ino in her life. She was overjoyed because she had been reunited with her sister. She was thankful that she had come across Sasuke on that hot summer day beneath that old Yoshino tree.